Hi, this is Trevor from Ultimatum. This is a video showing how to customize the default WordPress loop using Wonderloops 2. In templates, I've selected my default template and I'm going to go and have a quick look at this to show you what I've got. I've got a Twitter bootstrap using United and all the other settings are set as standard here. So hopefully you've got something similar on yours. Into my layouts, and I'm going to edit the default loop. Just click the edit button here. In the layout body you can see that we have a default loop, and that's all at the moment. In here in the single post layout you can see the standard settings that you might have. Title on, layout, you can choose which layout you want. I've got full image on top. If there's no image, I've got no placeholders, that's off. You can see that here the image height on single post, that will crop the height of the image to anything greater than that. Make sure you set that higher than your biggest image. Image position, I'm going to put it before the title. That's a fairly common location. I've got comment form on, and I'm going to switch my taxonomy on to be after the content, and the metadata is going to be after the title. This is what's in my metadata: date, author, comments, and everything else pretty much as is. And I'm going to save that. Okay, the multi-post one here, I've got the archive title off, so that switches off the archives for ... whatever you happen to have. Yes, my titles do link to the main posts. I've got 10 per page, which is the same as it is in WordPress settings. Really important to make sure they're both the same here and in WordPress. Here I'm going to just stick with the standard design for now, one column with full image. If there's no image, again I'll switch the placeholder off, so it stops you having a grey box. Image position again before the title. Image width, that's fine, and image height again, so it gives you an idea what size the image is going to be just for posts. This is the multiple posts. I'm going to here have it show content as excerpt, just 100 words. The taxonomy, category and tags, comes after the content, and meta, which is author, date, etc., is after the title, same as before. There's a separator here which appears between them. Where is the read more link? It's immediately after the text. You can put it where you want here, but there's some choices. You can choose from one of these 5 options, but that's all. You can't do anything else. You can't actually type your own text in there. Those are the choices you can make, and again I will save that there. Right, so all that's saved. Let's go and have a look at what that looks like. Well, here's the multi-post page. So there's one post at the moment. It's got an image, the others haven't. It appears before the title, as you can see. There's my title, which links to the actual post itself. Date, author, how many comments there are. And at the bottom here, and we can see categories and tags. And there's my read more. And that will appear on, actually changed it back to read more. That appears at the end of every one, so you can see exactly where it goes. And at the bottom we have our pagination. So it looks fairly standard. Let's go and have a look after you look through that little lot. Oh, notice here how there's no clickable on this single post. We can't click the image. Again, all the detail as we selected. Comments appear at the bottom here with a comment box. Tells you about the HTML tags and attributes you can use, but it's interesting you can't click on this, nothing happens. So just go and have a look and see what's going on in with that image. In Firebug we can see that it's got a responsive image according to that on the class. So let's test that, shall we? Let's put this into mobile view. Let's make it wider. Well, as you can see, indeed it is responsive. So that's a default thing that put in there. So that's nice and good. But as I said, we can't click it to go into a light box. Okay, so we've gone to loops, we've added a new loop in, and this is what we face. We're going to give it a name, single post. Here you can choose between all the different custom post types. I'm going to have just post because that's what I want it to be based on. The rest of these settings aren't important. I'm just going to publish that. Here we go. So we come up with the loop showing again single post. As you can see, the first thing we need to do is change this into the classic editor. So let's just go to classic mode, and you'll see all of these typically for the first time you use it are all open. This allows you to put all sorts of things in this case before the loop, then before the post. Here's the Visual Composer part of it, but at the end here, if you've got any other components that Visual Composer recognises, they'll be in here as well. So I've got Essential Grid and Rev Slider, and I'm going to switch off the After Post and After Loop as well because I don't want to use those today. You'll see here we could choose the number of columns, whereas it's a single post, we're just going to stick to one column. And we're pretty much ready to go. You can see here how this works, very Visual Composer-ish. What I need to do is I need to actually add an element in. There are all sorts of layouts you can choose, but I'm just going to stick to default layout. You could put some text in, but that's already in the main post as it is, so I don't need to do that. So we can just go ahead and click add element. What we're looking for, the very first element we're looking for is the featured image. So we'll click on add element. We'll go up to the top to WP Loop Core, find featured image, click it. A couple of seconds later we'll have featured image settings appear. I'm not going to change anything here, but there are lots of settings you can actually do, like what happens on click, what happens, do you want to wrap a div, a span or whatever, you can add those in. And you'll see that the featured image has now appeared and it's inside a row. So that's inside its own row. It's what we would call a wrapper in Ultimatum. I don't want anything actually inside that wrapper with it, so I create another wrapper with this big plus sign at the bottom here. So it'll give me another row, as it were. Go to Loop Core again. This time I'm going to put my post title in. You'll see that it gives you a choice of tag. In this case I'm going to use H1. I don't want it to link to a post because this is a single post loop, so I'm just going to leave it as is. You can see there's none, div, span. Just save the changes. And you can see it's in its own wrapper there, it's in its own row. So that's 2 rows I've put in already. I'm going to go for a third row now. This third row again, Loop Core. Here we're going to start off as with our one that we saw as a standard. We're going to have post date first, and here one of your problems is you need to decide what format it's going to be in. Well, you can go and have a look at the WP Codex if you wish, and that will quickly tell you how to format the date. I'm going to have a fairly simple one which simply has the number, the month and the year, so that's what that looks like there. I can put all sorts of other things in here. You can experiment with those later. I'll probably do a video showing you how to do that. But in the meantime, we'll just leave this otherwise as standard. It's quite handy to use the div and the span to be able to move these things around on the page afterwards. So yes, we'll come back and have a look at that. In the meantime, we'll just save that. Okay. On the same row, you'll recall, after the post date came the author. So rather than the big grey button, we're going to click the little button there, which puts them in the same wrapper. So we're looking for author. There we go. A lot less options here. The pretext would be, in this case, by. I put a space after it. Do I want it to link to the author's posts? It may be that you want to be able to link through to the author. You may not, it's up to you. I'm going to tick that as yes. I see all the posts made by that author. So that saves those changes. And you can see, look, they're in the same wrapper at the moment, in the same row. And finally, we need to see the post comments count. On this, you need to put the text in here for comments. Colon and then a space. And save those changes. whilst they are all vertically stacked there, they'll actually appear next to each other unless you do something to the CSS to style them. So we need a new row now, so it's at the bottom one, and loop core, and we're now into the actual post content. So I'll click on that. You can see again we've got choices of wrappers and text and so forth. We're not going to use read more and the read more text because this is a single post page, but it does allow you to put whatever you want in there, which is quite useful. So we just save those changes. You can see that's created its own wrapper row. Then after that comes all of the taxonomy. So loop core again. The first of the taxonomy is the categories. You can see you can add lots of things in here, and all I'm going to do before it is type the word categories. Add a colon and a space, and save that. Next to the categories on the main page, you'll probably recall we had tags, but this is getting a bit full at the moment, so I'm going to just use the accordion to close up the rows so I can see a bit more space. So again, loop core, and this time tags. If at any time the box decides not to pop up, you may have to save the loop before going on. Sometimes Visual Composer sort of hangs on that open box, so if it does hang on it, just go and save the loop and then continue editing. Okay, so we've added the tags there. That was quite simple. Finally, post comments. This was really easy. There's no options, so it just goes in as is. And there we are. We update the loop. We go back and refresh the layout body so we can see what's changed, and we have a look in the layer, and there's our single post. So we select that. It will ignore all the other options now and just click save. And if we go and have a look, so this is the page newly loaded with that loop. You can see it looks similar to the other one, but not quite the same. So there's some styling changes you might wish to make, but essentially we've got the same thing. But the big thing is we can go into all those different option boxes now and set options.